Hey, I've been debating whether or not to share this, but I think I need to. Honestly, I don't know how else to process what happened. My name is Sophie. I'm 20 years old, and I've been living at home for a couple of years since I graduated high school. But for the longest time, I've been stuck in this weird dynamic with my family that I'm just so done with. I have two younger siblings, Jason 17 and Emma 14, and as far back as I can remember, they've always been spoiled. My parents have always been super strict with me, everything from chores to expectations about my future, but for some reason, they've let Jason and Emma get away with literally anything. They never have to do chores. They never get any consequences. Meanwhile, I'm over here working a full-time job and coming home to do all the housework every single day. I'll give you a quick rundown of how things usually go at home. I wake up early to go to work, then I come back at night, exhausted. But the moment I walk through that door, the expectation is that I'm going to start cooking dinner, clean the kitchen, do laundry, and sometimes even take care of whatever mess my siblings leave behind. Jason and Emma, on the other hand, sit around watching TV or playing on their phones. They're literally never asked to help, and I've had enough. The situation really blew up last Thursday. I had just gotten off a brutal 9-hour shift at my job. My feet hurt. I hadn't had time to eat, and all I wanted was to lie down for 5 minutes. But as soon as I walked in, I was hit with the unmistakable smell of leftover food. I glanced around and saw Jason's dirty plate sitting right in the middle of the coffee table, crumbs all over it. Now, Jason has this thing where he always leaves his mess everywhere. Plates, wrappers, you name it. It drives me nuts. But at this point, I've just gotten used to it because, honestly, I didn't want to start another fight. But this time, I couldn't do it anymore. I walked past the plate, trying to calm myself, but then I heard my mom from the kitchen. "Sophie, can you come in here and clean up the table?" Jason left his plate again, she called out. Now, in my head, I was already boiling. Why is it always me? Why am I the one cleaning up after everyone? But I tried to stay calm and went into the kitchen. "Mom, I've been at work all day. I'm tired. Jason can clean up after himself for once," I said, not even trying to hide my frustration. She didn't take that well. "Sophie, you're the oldest. You should be setting an example. Just clean it up. You're acting like it's such a big deal." I couldn't believe my ears. "Mom, I'm not a maid. I do all the chores around here while Jason and Emma get a free ride. Why can't they just help for once?" Mom gave me that look, the one where she gets all defensive. "You're overreacting. We don't have time for this. Just clean it up, okay?" I felt my blood start to boil. This isn't just about the plate. You've been treating me like this for years. I'm constantly working, constantly cleaning, and you never ask Jason or Emma to do anything. "I'm done, Mom. I'm done being the only one who has to do everything." Her face hardened. "You're just being too sensitive. You're 20 years old now, Sophie. You're an adult. You're old enough to help out without complaining." I felt my heart racing. I'm an adult? Then why am I still stuck in this house, doing all the work, while you coddle them? I gestured toward Jason and Emma, who were both sitting in the living room, oblivious to what was happening. "You're acting like this is such a big deal," Mom snapped again. "You should be grateful you're living here rent-free, instead of complaining. What's your problem?" That was the breaking point for me. The frustration, the exhaustion, and the realization that I wasn't getting anywhere with them hit all at once. "I'm done," I said, before I even fully processed it. "I'm moving out." Mom froze, her eyes wide. "What? You can't be serious. Where are you even going to go?" "I'll figure it out," I said, grabbing my car keys off the counter. "I've saved up for months. I don't need this anymore." My heart was racing, but in that moment, I felt free. My mom called after me, shouting something about how I didn't have to do this, but I couldn't go back. I couldn't keep doing this to myself. I wasn't going to stay and keep being treated like I was invisible. I slammed the door behind me, and as I got into my car, I felt a sense of relief. I didn't know where I was going to stay yet, but I didn't care. I just knew that I couldn't stay in that house another minute. I don't think I've ever felt such a strange mixture of fear and excitement in my life. The car ride was quiet. I drove around aimlessly for a bit, just to clear my head. I wasn't sure where I was going to stay, but I knew I couldn't go back home. I parked at a nearby cafe and sat in my car for a while, scrolling through my phone. I found a couple of listings for rooms for rent, and after making a few calls, I ended up finding a place that seemed decent, a small one-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of the city. The rent was higher than I wanted to pay, but I could manage it for now. The idea of being away from my family, Not having to clean up after them or deal with their constant criticism was worth it. I signed the lease the next day, and by the end of the week, I had packed my stuff and was officially out of the house. I took everything I needed, my clothes, some basic furniture, my work gear, and a few keepsakes. It was a strange feeling, knowing that I wouldn't be coming back. No more random chores or being told I was too sensitive. The first few days were the most freeing I'd felt in a long time. I stayed in my new place, getting used to the quiet. I could come and go as I pleased, and no one was there to tell me what I should or shouldn't do. I cooked when I felt like it, and if I didn't want to do anything, I didn't have to. It was a small place, but it was mine, and that was enough. As the days went by, things started to settle. I got into a routine: work, the gym, a bit of Netflix in the evenings, and I started feeling more like myself again. I still kept in touch with a few friends, but honestly, I was starting to realize how toxic my family dynamic had been. I didn't have to carry the weight of all their problems on my shoulders anymore. The freedom was incredible. But then, about a week into living on my own, the call started. At first, it was just one voicemail from my mom. It was typical, her voice full of concern, but not the kind of concern that comes from actually caring about how I was doing. No, this was a different kind of concern. "Sophie, we need you to come back home. The house is a mess. You left your things everywhere, and no one's doing any of the chores. Your dad's been complaining, and Jason and Emma don't even know how to clean up after themselves. Please just come back for a little while. It's getting out of hand. We could really use your help." I felt a little bit of anger bubbling up as I listened to the message. Help? They hadn't cared about me helping before. They'd never asked me what I wanted or needed, but suddenly, when the chores weren't getting done, they wanted me back. I didn't call her back. The next day, I got a text from Jason. It was blunt and to the point. "Sophie, Mom says you need to come home and help out. The house is falling apart. Do you even care about us anymore?" I stared at the screen for a while, trying to stop myself from replying with something snarky. But instead, I just put my phone down and shook my head. They didn't even ask how I was doing, or if I was okay. They just wanted a maid. I didn't answer, and the messages kept coming. For the next few days, my parents, then Jason, and even Emma, all started reaching out in some form: texts, voicemails, calls, but it was all the same. They wanted me to come back and take care of things. They were getting desperate. For Mom, "Sophie, please just come back and help clean the kitchen. It's driving us crazy." From Emma, "Sophie, we haven't seen you in so long. We miss you. But also, can you do your laundry when you get the chance?" From Jason, "Sophie, seriously, what's your problem? Mom said you're just being selfish. Just help us out for a bit." I didn't know what annoyed me more, the fact that they were pretending to miss me or the fact that they still couldn't see that I wasn't just their housekeeper. After everything I'd done for them, everything I'd sacrificed, all they cared about was how much work I was doing for them. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about what I wanted. It was just the chores. One night, after my parents left me yet another voicemail, I snapped. I was sitting at home, finally getting some rest after a long shift, when my phone buzzed. I couldn't resist. I called my mom back. "Mom," I started, my voice calm but firm, "I'm not coming back. I'm not your maid, and I'm not going to be the one to clean up after everyone anymore." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice defensive. "You're acting ridiculous. The house is a disaster, and your dad's losing his mind. You're the only one who could do anything about it." "No, I'm the only one who ever does anything about it. I've been doing everything for years, and I'm done. If you and Dad want the house to be clean, you need to start actually parenting your kids and teaching them responsibility. I'm not cleaning up after them anymore." "Well, fine," she snapped. "I guess you don't care about the family then." I exhaled sharply. "No, Mom. I care about myself now. And I'm not going to let you guilt trip me into coming back just to do everything for you. I'm done." The call ended with her angrily telling me to stop being selfish. It stung, but I felt a sense of finality. I was never going back to that. The next week passed in a blur of work, workouts, and quiet nights alone in my apartment. For the first time in a long time, I could actually breathe. I didn't have to come home to a house full of demands, guilt trips, and endless chores. But of course, my parents weren't about to let me go that easily. It was a Thursday evening when my phone buzzed with a message from my dad. "Sophie, this is getting out of hand. We've been having to clean the whole house by ourselves. You need to come home and help us, or we won't be able to manage anymore." I stared at the text, rolling my eyes. It was the same old spiel, but this time, it was more direct. They were starting to get desperate, and I could feel the pressure building. I almost considered ignoring it, but I couldn't resist. I had to say something. So, I replied, keeping it as cool as possible. I'm not coming back, Dad. I'm not cleaning up after you all anymore. It's not my responsibility to keep the house in order. There was no response for hours, and part of me thought that maybe they were finally starting to get it. Maybe they were beginning to understand that I wasn't going to be their doormat anymore. But just as I was about to relax, my phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Jason. I was already irritated by their messages, but I picked up anyway, figuring I'd just shut it down quickly. Hey, Jason said, his voice calm but with an edge I didn't like. Why are you being so dramatic about this? You know it's not just about the chores, right? Mom and Dad are really struggling. They need help, and you're just throwing it all away. I rubbed my temples, already exhausted by the conversation before it had even fully begun. Jason, I'm not throwing anything away. I'm done being treated like I'm the only one who can do anything. You and Emma are old enough to start handling your own stuff. Mom and Dad should have been teaching you that. But you could help, he persisted, clearly getting annoyed. You could just come back for a little while, just until things calm down. It's not like you're doing anything important over there anyway. That last part hit a nerve. I'm working, Jason. I'm actually doing something with my life. I'm not sitting around waiting for someone else to take care of me. But you? You sit around all day playing video games and leaving dirty dishes everywhere, and then you expect me to pick up after you. He laughed, like I'd said something funny. Yeah, well, we don't all have jobs, do we? You act like you're some big deal just because you work a little. Mom and Dad are stressed enough without you acting like this. I was done. You know what? I'm done talking about this. You and Mom and Dad can keep playing these games, but I'm not your scapegoat anymore. I'm not coming back. I hung up before he could say anything else, feeling my heart racing. But no sooner had I set my phone down than it buzzed again. This time, it was from my mom. I almost didn't want to open it, but curiosity got the better of me. Sophie, we need to talk. You need to come home. Your father is having a breakdown, and the house is in complete chaos. You're not being fair. Please just come back for a bit and help us. I felt a burst of anger flare up in me. A breakdown? I muttered to myself. They're the ones who've been breaking me down for years. I didn't respond to her, but I could feel the pressure of their demands pushing on me, the weight of their expectations crawling under my skin. I hated it. That night, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through the streets, I thought about what my parents had done to me, the way they treated me like an unpaid maid, the way they thought I should be grateful for the scraps of love they threw my way, all while letting my siblings get away with murder. It wasn't fair. And now, I was paying the price for standing up for myself. When I got back to my apartment, I felt like something had shifted. This wasn't just about cleaning the house anymore. This was about my independence. My family had always expected me to bend to their will, to sacrifice my own happiness for their convenience. But I had done enough. They weren't going to make me feel guilty anymore. A few days later, the calls started again. This time, it wasn't just one voicemail or text. It was relentless. My mom called and left 5 messages in a row, each one growing more frantic than the last. Sophie, we really need you to come back. This is getting out of hand. Your dad can't handle it alone. Jason and Emma won't do anything. You're the only one who can help. And then, a couple of hours later, another one. Please, Sophie, I'm begging you. Come back. We'll make it right. You don't have to do everything, but just come back for a while. We're desperate. You're the only one who can fix this. The desperation in her voice was unmistakable, but I could also hear the undertone of manipulation. It wasn't about me. It was about getting the house in order, about getting me back to do the work they refused to do themselves. I let the messages pile up. Each one, a reminder of how much I'd done for them, how much I had sacrificed for their comfort. And now, they were trying to guilt me back into the same role. But I wasn't going back. It wasn't long before Jason called again. Seriously? You're just going to ignore us like this? You're letting the house fall apart because you're too stubborn to help? It's pathetic. I let the call go to voicemail. I was done. But as much as I tried to block them out, I could feel their presence looming over me. I could feel them pulling at the edges of my resolve. The pressure to return, to fix everything, was mounting. But I couldn't let them break me down again. I was free, and I wasn't going back. Not until they understood what they'd done to me. A few days passed after the last desperate messages from my mom. I didn't want to go back. I knew that. But something kept gnawing at me, some unresolved part of me that wanted closure, that wanted to end it once and for all. So, I finally made the decision. I was going back. But this time, it wasn't about fixing things for them. It was about making it clear that I was done. I threw on an old hoodie and jeans, grabbed my keys, and drove back to my parents' house. As I pulled into the driveway, my heart began to race. The house was familiar, but everything felt different now. This was no longer home in the way it used to be. It was a battlefield. I took a deep breath and walked up to the door. I knocked once, then pushed it open without waiting for a response. I could already hear my dad's voice from the other side of the door, talking to Jason and Emma in the kitchen. When I stepped inside, the first thing that hit me was the smell. The house smelled stale, like the kind of place you only want to be in if you have no other choice. I didn't bother with pleasantries as I walked into the kitchen. The second I walked in, my parents' faces lit up with surprise, but then with relief. "Sophie, you're back." Mom rushed over, her face practically glowing, thinking I'd come to rescue them. "Finally," Dad said, getting up from the table. "We've been waiting for you. Things have really gotten out of control here." Jason and Emma barely glanced up from their phones, too absorbed in whatever was going on in their little worlds. I stood there for a second, watching their expressions, expecting me to just fall into the old role I had played for years. The fixer, the one who made everything right. But instead, I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "No, I'm not here to rescue you," I said, my voice steady but full of the weight I had been carrying for so long. The confusion on their faces was palpable. My mom took a step back, blinking as though she couldn't quite understand what I meant. "What do you mean, honey? You're back. We really need you, no, Mom. You need me to clean up after you. You need me to fix your mess because you refuse to do it yourself. I've been doing it for years, and I'm done." They froze, and for the first time, I saw something change in their eyes. My dad opened his mouth to say something, but I didn't let him. "I'm done being the one who keeps everything together while you all sit back and let me do it," I continued. "I don't want to be the one who has to fix everything all the time, just so you can pretend it's fine." I turned and looked around the kitchen. The counter was piled high with dirty dishes. The trash was overflowing. The floor had crumbs and spills on it, and the sink was filled with unwashed pots and pans. It was a mess, a disaster. "Look at this," I said, gesturing toward the kitchen. "This is what you've been asking me to come back to? This is what you want me to clean up?" Mom stepped back. "We've been really busy, Sophie. Your dad's been sick. And no, stop making excuses. This isn't about me coming back to clean. This is about you all taking advantage of me for years and not once thinking that maybe you should take some responsibility. Jason and Emma are old enough to do their own chores. I don't care if they're still in school. You're the parents. You should be teaching them, not letting me do everything." My dad's face flushed red with anger, but I could see the crack in his usual defensive posture. "We never asked you to do all this for us," he snapped. "You chose to help out. No one made you do it." I felt a burst of frustration, but I didn't let it overtake me. "That's not the point. You've expected it from me, Dad. And I'm done." I looked back at my siblings, who were still glued to their phones. "You two don't get a pass, either," I added, my voice sharp. "I'm not coming back to be your maid. You need to start doing your share. This whole dynamic where I clean and cook and do everything while you all sit back has to end." Jason rolled his eyes. "Wow, dramatic much? Can't you just help us for once?" "Dramatic? I'm done," I said, cutting him off. "I've been doing this for years, and no one's appreciated it. Not once." I turned back to my parents. "I came here today to tell you that I'm done. I'm not coming back. I'm not going to be the one who picks up the pieces every time you mess up. You need to figure this out on your own." They stood there, shocked, staring at me. My mom's lip quivered, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. But it was too late. I had made my decision, and I wasn't going to back down. "I'm leaving," I said, turning toward the door. "Good luck." As I walked out of the house, I could hear my mom calling my name. "Sophie, please. Don't leave. We can fix this." But I didn't turn around. I kept walking, letting the door shut behind me, and I never looked back. I got in my car and drove away, my chest heavy, but with a sense of relief I hadn't felt in a long time. I had taken my power back. No more cleaning up after them. No more feeling obligated to fix their problems. It was time to live for me. As I drove away, I felt a sense of finality. I knew I had made the right choice. It wasn't about being harsh. It was about taking control of my life and not letting them drain me anymore. What do you all think? Should I have done this sooner? Or was I right to finally put myself first? Let me know your thoughts. Hey, This is my first time posting, and I'm not sure if I'll even get any replies, but I need to get this off my chest. This all happened a few years ago, but I still can't shake the feeling of betrayal. Maybe you all can help me understand if I was in the wrong, but I honestly think I'm owed a little justice for what went down. So, here's the setup. My name is Jess, and I come from a pretty normal family. Mom, dad, and my younger brother, Alex. Like most families, we had our share of squabbles over the years, but nothing too serious. That is, until the whole issue with our late grandfather's house came up. Grandpa passed away when I was in my early 20s, and he left behind this small, but charming house. It wasn't anything special, certainly not a mansion, but it was cozy, had a good amount of space, and it felt like it could be home. The only problem was, no one was living there. Grandpa had been living alone in the house for years, and now that he was gone, it just sat there, empty and waiting for someone to take it. I didn't think much about it at first. It was just a house, right? But then, out of nowhere, Alex, my younger brother, announced he was moving into Grandpa's place. No biggie, I thought. He could use the space, and I wasn't exactly in a position to need it at the time. At that point, I was living with some friends, just trying to get by after a rough breakup. But as time passed, I realized I could really use a place of my own, somewhere quiet to regroup, get a little peace and space. So, I did what anyone would do. I asked my parents if I could stay at Grandpa's house for a while. I wasn't asking for a permanent spot, just a temporary place while I got my life back on track. I was already feeling a little awkward about it, because Alex had just moved in. But it's not like I was asking for his room. I'd be fine with the extra room or even the guest bedroom. I figured it wouldn't hurt to ask, right? I'll never forget the moment I brought it up to my parents. It was a Sunday afternoon, and we were all sitting in the living room. I was feeling a bit nervous because I knew Alex was already settled in there, but I figured my parents would see it as a reasonable request. Hey, Mom, Dad, I started, my voice a little tentative. I've been thinking, do you think I could stay at Grandpa's house for a little while? I could really use a place to crash until I get back on my feet. I'll help with anything, like taking care of the place or doing the lawn work. There was a pause. My mom looked at me for a second, but instead of the usual warmth in her expression, there was this almost flatness. It was hard to put my finger on it first, but something was off. My dad was sitting there too, half paying attention, his eyes glued to his phone as always. He didn't even look up when I spoke. Mom sighed, then looked at Dad, like she was waiting for him to say something. When he didn't, she finally spoke. No, Jess, that's not going to work. I froze for a second. What do you mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It's Alex's place now, she said, almost dismissively. He's the one who's staying there. You need to figure something else out. I could feel my chest tighten. It was one thing to hear that from my brother, but coming from my mom? And Dad just sat there, staring at his phone, acting like I wasn't even talking. I didn't know what to say. My mouth went dry, and I tried to keep my cool. I don't need to stay forever, just for a little while. I'd be really careful, I promise. It's just temporary while I get back on track. My mom's face didn't soften. She crossed her arms, leaning back in her chair. No, Jess, it's not happening. But why? What's the big deal? I pressed, genuinely confused. This was family, right? I thought we were supposed to help each other out. My dad finally looked up from his phone. It's Alex's house now. You should be more independent. I blinked, feeling the sting of his words. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to be independent. I just needed a little help, a little space to breathe. But no, this was apparently where the line was drawn. But, you let Alex stay there. Why not me? I asked, my voice a little sharper than I meant. My mom's gaze hardened, like I'd said something I shouldn't have. Alex needs it, Jess. He's been struggling with things, and we've already told you, you need to handle your own stuff. Don't ask for special treatment. The words felt like a slap in the face. Alex is struggling? I repeated, my voice shaky now. What about me? I've been struggling too. But apparently, I don't matter enough for a little help. The room went silent for a few moments, and I could feel the tension in the air. My parents didn't seem to care about the situation. They just sat there, as if I was being unreasonable. And Alex? Well, of course, when I mentioned it to him later, he laughed. You really think I'm going to let you move in here? He asked, snickering. No way, Jess. It's my place now. Figure it out. So, after that, I tried to put it out of my mind. It wasn't easy, but I had no choice. I couldn't just sit around begging for a place to stay. I had to make things work. So I moved into a tiny studio apartment that I could barely afford. It was cramped, but it was mine, and I didn't have to rely on anyone. But as much as I hated the situation, the bitterness stayed with me. Every time I saw my parents or Alex, I couldn't shake the feeling that they had abandoned me. I was the one who needed a hand up, not Alex, who had been living rent-free in a house he didn't even care about, acting like it was his personal palace. But they all kept defending him. He's in a rough spot, my mom would say whenever I brought it up. You'll figure it out, Jess. And Alex? Well, he wasn't shy about rubbing it in. He'd send me texts every now and then, bragging about how his life was so much easier with the house. He'd even throw in a comment here or there about how nice it was not to have to pay rent. It was like he knew how much it bothered me and he loved it. He was playing some twisted game, and I was the punchline. Things dragged on like that for months. I got a second job, started hustling to cover rent, and tried to keep my head down. But it was hard not to feel like my parents had picked a side. I'd overhear them talking about Alex's bright future and how he was really getting his act together. Meanwhile, they'd give me these forced pep talks, telling me that I just needed to work harder. I guess they thought I'd get over it, but I didn't. I was tired of being the one they only remembered when they needed something. One evening, about a year after the whole "no, you can't stay at Grandpa's house" incident, I was out grabbing dinner when I got a call from my mom. I didn't even want to pick it up, but I did. "Jess, honey, we need to talk," she said, her voice oddly serious. I felt a little jolt of anxiety. My parents had never called me this late unless something was up. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Well, we've been talking, and we have a situation," she said slowly, dragging out every word. "We're in a bit of a financial bind, and we could really use your help. It's important." I sat up straighter. This sounded off. They'd never asked me for help before. Not like this. "Okay, what kind of help are we talking about?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Your dad and I need to borrow some money," she said, not even bothering to sugarcoat it. "We've had some unexpected expenses come up, and we were hoping you could loan us a couple thousand, just until we can get things sorted." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mouth went dry. Here I was, struggling to make rent, still getting by on a shoestring budget, and they wanted me to give them money? The same people who had turned me away when I needed them? I was quiet for a moment, not sure what to say. "You want me to give you money?" I repeated, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "After everything? After you told me to figure it out when I needed help? Now you want to borrow from me?" There was an awkward silence on the other end of the line before my mom spoke again. "Look, Jess, we're not asking for much, and we're family. We've helped you before, and now it's your turn to help us." The audacity. She really thought I'd just roll over and help them after everything that happened? I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to hang up the phone and let them deal with their own mess, just like they had told me to do when I was struggling. But there was something inside me that snapped. Maybe it was the anger, or maybe it was just the sheer injustice of the situation. "Actually," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "I think I've helped enough already." "What are you talking about?" she asked, confused. "I've been helping myself for the past year," I said, feeling a little more confident now. "You made it clear that I wasn't worth helping. You told me to figure it out, so that's what I did. I didn't get a place to crash. I didn't get a handout. And now, you want me to bail you out." My mom's tone shifted from pleading to defensive. "Jess, this is different. We're family. You should understand that." "I do understand," I said, a bit of a bitter chuckle slipping out. "I understand that when it was my turn, I was supposed to figure it out on my own. And now that it's your turn, you're coming to me. Well, I'm going to do the same thing you did. Figure it out." I could hear her sputtering, but I wasn't done yet. "And as for the money, I think I'll be keeping it for myself, just in case I ever need to figure something out again." The silence on the other end was almost deafening. I could almost picture her speechless, not knowing what to say to that. And then, just before I hung up, I added one final line. "Maybe you should have helped me when you had the chance." The silence lingered for what felt like an eternity before my mom finally spoke again. But this time, her voice had lost the pleading tone. It was colder, sharper. "Well, fine. If you don't want to help, then we'll just have to figure it out ourselves." I heard the sound of her taking a breath, probably trying to compose herself. "But don't think this is the last time we're going to ask. You're still family, Jess." I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel guilty, but honestly, all I felt was a quiet sense of relief. I had finally stood up for myself. "Yeah, well, good luck," I said before I ended the call, my hand shaking slightly as I put the phone down. That night, I didn't sleep much. It wasn't because I felt bad. I didn't. It was because I felt powerful. I had said no. I had taken control of the situation. For once, I wasn't the one on the receiving end of their expectations. For once, I made the rules. The next few days were tense, though. My mom and dad didn't call or text me, which felt weird. I was used to their constant check-ins or their passive-aggressive guilt trips. But now, nothing. It was like I had vanished from their radar, and it was exactly what I needed. I didn't want to deal with their drama anymore. Alex, on the other hand, wasn't as silent. He texted me the day after that conversation. "Mom and Dad said you're being stubborn," he wrote. "I don't get it. Why can't you just help them out like they helped you?" I stared at the text for a while before responding, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Help them out? Like how? By letting them control me again? I don't think so. He replied almost immediately. "Wow, Jess. I'm just saying. They've been there for you. You should be there for them now." I wanted to scream, to tell him exactly what I thought of him and his precious little house, but I held back. Instead, I just typed out something simple. Maybe if they'd been there for me when I needed it, I'd be more inclined to help. There was a pause before he answered again. "You're being childish." And that was it. It didn't matter what he said, because I knew one thing. I wasn't going to fall for their manipulation anymore. It had taken me a while to realize it, but I was done. I was done being the one to bend over backward while they walked all over me. But the real twist? The real reason they were going to regret this? They weren't done with me yet. Oh, no. They still needed something. Something big. And when they came crawling back, I would be ready. A couple of weeks went by, and I settled into my routine. Work, gym, Netflix, sleep. It wasn't glamorous, but I felt more at peace than I had in months. The guilt they tried to make me feel had slowly faded away, replaced with a quiet satisfaction. I had taken control. I had done what was right for me. But just when I thought I was safe from their drama, the storm hit. One afternoon, as I was finishing up a shift at the cafe, I saw a notification pop up on my phone. It was a message from my dad. I hadn't heard from him directly in ages. It read, "We need to talk. Urgently." I felt a knot in my stomach, the familiar anxiety creeping back in. I stared at the message, trying to figure out what was going on. It had been so quiet for so long, I was beginning to think they'd just given up on me. I was about to reply when another message came through, this one from Alex. "It's about Grandpa's house," he wrote. "Dad's asking for your help." I stared at the message for a long time. Help with Grandpa's house? What the hell did that even mean? I could already feel my blood pressure rising. They couldn't possibly be serious. I decided to call my dad. It rang a few times before he picked up. "Jess," he said, his voice strained. "We need to talk about something important." "Dad, what's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though I could feel my heart thudding in my chest. "Look, it's a long story, but we need you to come by the house. There's something you need to know. Something urgent about the property." I felt a sudden chill. "What do you mean, urgent?" "We can't explain it all over the phone. You need to come in person." "Why now? Why are you asking me for help again, after everything?" I asked, my frustration creeping in. "Please, Jess," he said, the desperation clear in his voice. "Just come over. This is really important." I wanted to say no. I wanted to hang up the phone and tell them to figure it out themselves. But then I remembered the satisfaction of standing my ground before. Maybe, just maybe, this was the final test. And I was going to pass it with flying colors. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I just texted back, "I'll be there in an hour." I pulled up to my parents' house, gripping the steering wheel tighter than I needed to. I knew something was off. The whole urgent thing didn't sit right with me. If it were really that important, they would have told me over the phone. But I was curious. Curious to see just how far they would go to manipulate me this time. As I stepped out of my car, I took a deep breath, bracing myself for whatever nonsense they were about to throw at me. I rang the doorbell, and after a few moments, my mom opened the door with a wide, overly enthusiastic smile. "Oh, Jess, you actually came," she said, as if we hadn't just spent the last few months at odds. I narrowed my eyes. "Yeah, you said it was urgent." She waved her hand dismissively. Come in, come in. We'll explain inside." I hesitated before stepping into the house. It smelled the same as always, vanilla candles and my dad's old cologne lingering in the air. It should have felt comforting, but instead, it made me uneasy, like I was stepping into a trap. I followed my mom into the living room, where my dad and Alex were already waiting. My dad was seated in his old recliner, arms crossed, looking annoyed. Alex sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he couldn't care less that I was there. I took a seat across from them. All right, I said, cutting straight to the point. What's so urgent? My dad cleared his throat. Well, first, we just wanted to see you, sweetheart. It's been too long. I let out a dry laugh. Right. Because you were so desperate to see me that you couldn't just say that on the phone. My mom shot my dad a look, and he sighed. Fine. We wanted to talk to you about Grandpa's house. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. What about it? My mom gave me that saccharine smile she always used when she was about to ask for something unreasonable. Well, we've been talking, and we realized that, maybe, we were a little unfair to you before. I blinked. A little. She ignored my sarcasm and continued. The thing is, Alex has been having a tough time keeping up with things at the house. There are property taxes, maintenance, and, well, he's just got so much on his plate. We thought that maybe you could step in and help. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. Help? Yes, my dad chimed in. We were thinking you could start pitching in financially, just to make sure everything is taken care of. I felt my jaw tighten. Let me get this straight. You told me I couldn't live there when I needed a place to stay, but now you want me to pay for it? For Alex's house. My brother finally looked up from his phone, rolling his eyes. It's not just for me, Jess. It's for the family. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, now it's a family thing? That's funny, because when I needed help, I was told to figure it out. My mom sighed dramatically, like I was being the unreasonable one. Jess, don't be like this. We made decisions that we thought were best at the time. But now, we really do need your help. I shook my head, feeling my temper rise. No, you don't need my help. You need a scapegoat. You need someone to clean up the mess you made when you handed Grandpa's house to Alex without thinking it through. My dad leaned forward, his expression hardening. Don't talk like that. This is about doing what's right for the family. I stood up, my heart pounding. You mean doing what's right for Alex? Because let's be real, that's all this has ever been about. Alex scoffed. Oh, come on, Jess. Stop playing the victim. You act like we threw you out on the street. I turned to him, my voice cold. You did. Maybe not literally, but you sure as hell didn't care when I was struggling. You told me to figure it out. So guess what? Now it's your turn. My mom gasped. Jess, that is not how family treats each other. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's rich coming from you. Because when I needed my family, where were you? Oh, right. Too busy handing out free houses to my golden child brother. My dad's face was turning red. That's enough. I grabbed my bag. No, it's not. Because I'm done. I'm done playing this game where you guilt trip me into being your backup plan. You made your choice when you told me I wasn't welcome. Well, now I'm making mine. My mom looked genuinely panicked now. Jess, wait. I shook my head. No, you don't get to control me anymore. You don't get to cherry pick when I'm part of the family. I turned to Alex. You wanted the house? You got it. Good luck figuring it out. I turned on my heel and walked to the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Jess, don't do this. My dad called after me. We need you. I stopped at the doorway, turning back just enough to meet his eyes. Yeah, I said. And I needed you. Funny how that works. And with that, I walked out. I drove away without looking back, but the second I was alone in my car, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me, anger, frustration, maybe even a little sadness. Not because I regretted what I said, but because it confirmed something I had always suspected. I was never really part of their plans unless they needed something from me. After that, I went full no contact. Blocked their numbers, ignored their emails, and made it clear through mutual relatives that I was done. And you know what? It was the best decision I ever made. No more last-minute guilt trips. No more feeling like I was some disposable backup plan. From what I've heard, Alex is still struggling with the house. Turns out, property taxes and upkeep aren't as easy as having everything handed to you on a silver platter. My parents apparently tried to spin the story to make me look like the villain, but people caught on fast. Some of my extended family actually reached out to tell me they understood why I walked away. Honestly, I have no regrets. They made their choice, and I made mine. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh? Or did they finally just get a taste of their own medicine?